ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaste, my dear friends. This is third video on the topic of Who Am I, explained and described by Acharya Sri Ram Sharma of All World Gayatri Parivar. So I start the third video. This is starting. Indriyani prayahuri dedhya param manaha manasastu para buddhiryo buddhehe praptastu saha. This is slok number 42 of Gita's third chapter. Meaning is, supreme beyond their objects are the senses. Supreme over the senses is mind. Supreme over the mind is the intelligent will. That which is supreme over the intelligent will is He, the Purusha, that is Atma. In a human being, his body, its sensory perceptions, mind and the soul, the Purusha of the Gita, are relatively more and more rarefied in that order. Hence, in order to have a clear perception of the soul, one has to perceive the subtle differences between the body and its senses, sensory perceptions, and mind and the soul successively. In the preceding chapter, exercises for discovery of the soul as an immortal entity, distinctly apart from the mortal body and its senses, were given. Let us now proceed to analyze the faculties of mind. In the following text, the reality of Aham as an entity independent of the body and the mind is discussed. Here it is necessary to understand that Aham described in this context is neither ego nor Ahamkar, the Aham Virti thought based generated by Aham. The Random House English Dictionary defines ego as the I or self of a person as thinking, feeling, willing, and distinguish itself from selves of others and from objects of its thoughts. In this way, the I or self, when referred to in the context of ego, is essentially related to the mind and the body of a person. Similarly, Ahankar is also one among us the four faculties of the mind, namely Man, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar. On the contrary, the real Aham, Vastavik Aham or soul, eternally exists independent of the body and mind. Here, the author has used the word I, Aham, inner self and real self as synonymous of Atma or soul. These are not to be misunderstood as referring to the ego or ahankar. In other words, where the reader is being asked to speak or think in the first person I, unless it is specifically referred to the body or mind, it should be understood as the soul of the person, expressing itself through speech or thought on behalf of the person. Mind, intellect, and aham. Ancient Indian spiritual texts regard mind and intellect as two separate entities. Modern Western philosophers, on the other hand, consider the mind itself as the highest level of intelligence. We need not enter into a fruitless discussion on this subject. The difference between the two is so subtle that Apparently, they appear to be one and the same. However, both streams of thought experience recognize two distinct mental faculties, namely mind and intellect. Both regard intellect being subtler than the mind. For convenience of reader, we shall regard intellect as a more refined state of mind and proceed with our practical exercises. Thus far, we have identified the visible and invisible coverings of the human soul, that is, physical body, and different faculties of the mind. Now, in this chapter, we shall endeavor to find how Ahankar is differentiated from the real I. It necessitates it necessitates the examination of minute details. It is not so easy to differentiate between the true Aham and the egoistic note of the subtle body, Sukshma Sarira, as it is to identify the outer and inner coverings of the self. It would require a deeper level of perception and sensitivity. Even after having a perception that the subtle body exists independent of the physical matter composing the body, confusion persists about the nature of Aham because of its intimate relationship with the subtle body, Sukshma Sarira. Most people believe that mind and soul are one and the same. Instead of elaborating the attributes of the mind, the author would try to enlighten the reader about the methods with the help of which it would be possible to analyze the constituents of the physical body and the vague eye threadbare and find out the nature of the true ahem, that is soul. This introspection you are going to do with the help of your own mind, teasing out of it the right answer to your queries. Mind is the bioenergy chetana serving as the link between the body and the soul. For the convenience of seekers, let us make an endeavor to understand the working of mind by broadly trifurcating its functions. The three faculties of mind, the pravirta manas. In spiritual parlance, one faculty of mind is called manas. This faculty of mind is undifferentiated between human beings and the less evolved species of the biological kingdoms like birds and animals. It is also known as the secret mind, Gupta Man, or sleeping mind, Supta Man. The limbic brain or animal brain, that is the automatic nervous system in parlance of medical science. It controls the normal biological functions of the body and keeps it functioning. Though we are not conscious of it, the biological functions of our body keep going on involuntarily. Functions like digestion of food, blood circulation, extraction of juices at successive stages, formation of blood platelets, flesh, bones and bone marrow, hormones, defecation, urination, inhalation, exhalation, movements of eyelids, etc. take place without any conscious effort. The Pravritta Manas is also responsible for formation of habits. It takes some time in learning something, but once it is learned, the Pravritta Manas does not discard it easily. The experiences of our ancestors and those which we had in course of our evolution in our earlier births up to the present human birth are all stored in this subconscious layer of the mind. Before assuming the human form, the soul has been inhabiting in innumerable life forms of lower order, lacking developed intellectual capacity. It had acquired in this process of slow evolution many animal traits like jealousy, animosity, aggressiveness, selfishness, and anxiety. All such crude animal like traits which have not been consciously eliminated by strong self efforts in early births are accumulated in this faculty of mind. It is a unique museum having an assortment of antiques. A few amongst these instinctive urges are good, worthwhile, and invaluable, such as faithfulness of the dog, whereas many others are perverse and frightening. Seeds of all impulses such as greed, violence, cruelty, rage, impatience, etc., which are common among us savages and animals, are stored in this part of mind. The basic impulses of the two lower modes of nature, tamas inertia and rajas kinesis, such as ignorance, dullness, passivity, tamasic and self-seeking, inflated sense of egoism, sensual indulgence, greed, anger, etc., rajasic are all stored in seed form in pravarta manas, the unconscious, subconscious layers of the mind. The Prabhuddha Manas. Beside the Pravarta Manas, there is yet another more evolved faculty which could be appropriately called as Prabhuddha Manas, the cortical brain or the intelligent mind. While attentively going through this booklet, the reader is using this faculty of the mind. The attributes of this layer of mind are deliberating, analyzing, comparing, conceptualizing, logical thinking, and decision making. Quick wittedness, sharp intellect, alertness, analysis of a situation are all functions of this faculty of mind. However, it is to be remembered that neither the Prabhuddha Manas nor the Prabhuddha Manas are aham of man. With a little more consideration, it would be easy to differentiate these two from aham. In this small tract, it is not possible to elucidate in detail the properties of the intellectual faculty of human mind. Those interested in this subject are advised to study the latest masterpieces on psychology. For the time being, it is sufficient to know that the Prabhuddha Manas too is only a covering and not the sole aham proper. The Adhyatam Manas, the third most evolved faculty of mind, is called Adhyatam Manas, a distinctive faculty of a spirituality awakened person. In a majority of people, it remains dormant and inactive. It is assumed that this faculty has started awakening in the reader, otherwise, he would not have taken interest in the subject of this treatise. This faculty of mind, Adhyatam Manas, is regarded as the most evolved attribute of the mind. It is reflected as spiritual seeking, inspirations, receptivity to inner divine guidance, exceptional talents, etc. Noble urges and emotions originate in this very faculty of mind. Love, compassion, mercy, empathy, sense of justice, sensitivity to sufferings of others, adherence to basic values, benevolence, commitment, integrity, etc. are some of the attributes of this faculty of mind. In this faculty also germinate the seeds of unconditional divine love. The mysteries of nature too are revealed in this illuminated layer of the mind. However, remember this faculty of mind too is only a resplendent garment of Ahem. It is not Ahem, nevertheless the experience of Ahem, which we are endeavoring to point towards, can be had only through Adhyatamanas. Mind is the tool for self-realization. Let the above discussion not create the erroneous impression that the writer is assigning a higher or lower status to various faculties of the mind and suggesting that one or the other in itself is an obstruction in the path of self-realization. As a matter of fact, it is the mind in totality which is bringing you nearer to the reality of your true immortal identity and your inner self. Ahem. Each faculty of the mind has its own specific role in helping the seeker move towards self realization, provided it is properly utilized. The common man uses only the lower, less evolved faculties of the mind. They are hardly aware that different realms of mind have distinctive known and unknown miraculous potentialities. People tend to ascribe their failures to incapability of their mind. However, those aspiring for spiritual awakening are always advised by their teachers that they should not erroneously put the blame for their failure on their mind. Instead of considering the dormant potentials of the mind irrelevant for human progress, they should earnestly endeavor to activate them properly. The lessons being imparted here can be put into practice through the mind. All activities leading to success, including understanding an idea and accepting its viability, first take place in the realm of mind only. Hence, addressing the mind of the reader directly, the writer says, open the door to receive the wisdom being transmitted from your higher mental faculties. He further pleads, please pay attention to this sacred subject. Please do not create obstacles in the way of transmissions of divine illuminations, Devi Chaitna. There can be These can be received through your faculty of Adhyatamanas, which has capability of perceiving the truth. Do not create obstacles when it transmits divine energies for enlightenment. Exercise for differentiating soul from the products of mind. With a calm, relaxed, and peaceful state of mind, be reverently seated, respectively, opening yourself to the higher wisdom being transmitted through your Adhyatam Manas. In the previous lesson, we have come to understand that your I is an immortal entity beyond your body, controlling your thoughts, emotions, traits. See affirmations of lesson 2. Now we proceed further to deduce that all objective and subjective thoughts are products of the mind and therefore are different from the soul. In other words, soul has an independent identity of its own beyond the mind and its qualities and attributes. Let us examine how the soul exists independent of the mind. Numerous emotional impulses like animosity, anger, maternal or paternal love, jealousy, hatred, elation, dejection, etc., are endlessly arising in the mind. Your I, the inner self or Ahem, can differentiate, examine, analyze, or discard each of these. This ahem can also observe the state of their origin, maximum intensity and after practicing this introspection for a few days, the seeker will become so adept in this process as though the object of observation were some other person. All such impulses are part of contemplative observation. Their nature can be examined threadbare and in fact assessed from all angles. Thus, the seer, I, or observer is a different entity than the observed objects, the body or mind. Visualizing the inner self, soul in this way will make it easier to comprehend. The every fact that the creations of mind are being examined separately means that these are not part of your real self, the I. With practice, this perception of separateness will continue becoming stronger and ultimately an abiding, uninterrupted expression. Inherent human traits and ahem. It is not the purpose of these lessons to make the reader impervious to emotions, though it would be welcome if through this sadhana one could develop a capability for getting rid of one's depraving and downgrading traits. However, for the objective under consideration, the seeker is advised to ignore all traits, whether good or bad, leave them as they are, and realize that ahem is beyond these and is an overarching independent entity. Let the seeker now resolutely and clearly make a demarcation between the traits and the virtues of the three modes of nature, gunas, discussed earlier, and ahem. There is no need to worry that a particular trait has become so strong that it cannot be discarded. Before this trait was established, your ahem was already in existence. If this ahem is capable of clearly discerning these traits objectively and independently, it will become easy to discard them in no time. Remember, through this exercise, the seeker is experiencing and developing a conviction that the I who is using the intellect and its powers, the I which considers the mind and its powers as its implements, is the master of the mind. Earlier, we have done an in-depth study of the Prabuddha Manas and its creations and found that Ahem is capable of discerning these as separate from itself. In the same way, the creations of the highest faculty of mind, the Adhyatma Manas, can be discerned by Ahem as separate from itself. The seeker may doubt that since the divine spiritual inspirations are not related to physical body and these cannot be utilized like emotions arising in the lower faculties of mind, perhaps these are inseparably related to the ahem. At this stage, let us not enter into a deep discussion on this subject as the seeker still has very rudimentary and fleeting experience of the Adhyatma Manas, which, unlike the lower, less evolved faculties of the mind, is like a workshop for activation of divine forces in human mind. Seers who have had the paranormal vision of the light jyoti of Ahem at the highest level of their spiritual evolution tell them that Ahem exists beyond the Adhyatma Manas, but it illuminates the latter with its light, and that reflection of Ahem in the Adhyatam Manas is like the image of the sun seen in water. The enlightened sages say that the brilliance of Adhyatam Manas is only a faint reflection of the inherent and dazzling effulgence of Aham. Although first experience of Adhyatam Manas creates an illusion as if this itself were Aham, which in reality it is not. Aham is like an incessantly glittering jewel wrapped under several coverings of cloth, the coverings of the illusory worlds created by the magical mind. As the coverings are removed one by one, the flattered light becomes brighter and brighter. The inherent brilliance of the jewel remains undiminished, irrespective of the number of coverings or no covering at all. The sole purpose of going to this level of consciousness is to create the highest level of awareness of Ahem, so that the seeker becomes convinced of the competence of the soul for utilizing its instruments effectively. This understanding empowers him to take off the old, sullied, tattered clothes, regressive traits and illusions, and put on new, resplendent garments, noble, virtuous traits, and with their help carry out the assigned duties and responsibilities of life effectively, thus becoming a role model for others to follow. After attaining this level of perception through persistent practice, the seeker may be eager to know what remains to be experienced which is beyond ahem. Transcending, transcending, transcending ahem is the pure, ultimate, immutable super soul, Vishuddha Atma, the Almighty God of which the individual soul is a spark. The conviction of this transcendental being comes through personal realization. By separating the ahem from the body, the mind, and everything else, related to these, successively discarding ever subtler layers of ego bound consciousness, the seeker is ultimately left with the immortal, immutable soul, beyond which nothing remains to be discerned. The logic is simple. The thinker, the analyst, and the object being deliberated upon or being analyzed can never be more and the same. The sun can never illuminate its own itself in the same manner. The soul cannot be something to be deliberated upon, nor can it be a subject of analysis. At each moment of life, your consciousness tells that your real self, I, is the thinker, the seer, and the doer. This I, as we have already discussed, is neither your body nor your mind in its conscious, subconscious, or unconscious states. It has to be some other independent entity which remains ever vigilant, alert, and awake, irrespective of the state of the body or the mind. This is what we call Atma or soul in spiritual parlance. Soul, the ever present witness. Try as you may with the farthest range of imagination, you will never succeed in going beyond the soul. You will never believe that this I is ever non existent. This I, the soul, is a drop of that absolute, indestructible, immutable ocean of consciousness which we call God. The soul itself is the spark of that supreme Son of the Spirit. O seeker, may you, by the grace of God, succeed in perceiving the existence of the soul in yourself and appreciate that man is a deity in deep slumber, a fallen angel according to Christian belief, unaware of his potentialities within a human being. There exist in dormant state divine potentialities awaiting discovery and seeking an outlet to manifest themselves in action. It has been demonstrated in the lives of innumerable mystics, sages, seers, and occultists through the ages that these powers can be accessed and made operative, although their mastery requires persistent, single pointed endeavor. Initially, the progress is slow, but after crossing over the threshold of limited consciousness and rising to the plane of Adhyatmanas, the vision becomes clear and path easy. After that, the progress is like an elevator ride in its original nature. The individual soul, Atma, in each embodied being is an indivisible portion of the Absolute Paramatma. In the next chapter, we shall discover that the soul too does not have an independent existence of its own and that it ever remains an integral part of the Supreme Being. However, before attaining this awareness, one has to activate the awareness of Aham within. Let these lessons and words not be taken merely as a trivial exercise in verbosity and treated with disdain. The elaborations made here may not be as explicit as necessary for this complex subject. Nevertheless, it is to be emphasized that through these words a great truth is being revealed. As you are reading these lessons, your soul is eagerly expecting to proceed on the path leading to spiritual enlightenment. Step forward and become its torch bearer. It is hoped that with the foregoing contemplative exercises, the reader will have developed the capability of making a distinction between aham and the faculties of the body and the mind. Experiential awareness of this fact will make the seeker master of his mind and its traits, virtues. He will then intuitively develop the competence to use these tools effectively in life. For elaboration of such a serious subject, the ideological approach and words used by the author may appear too crude and naive. The subject, however, pertains to perceptions of intangible realms of consciousness which are beyond the reach of words and expressions. The specific taste of a particular favorite food cannot be discarded in words. One has to personally taste it. The author is simply trying to cultivate an interest in the subject so that the reader is motivated to himself carry out these exercises. Thus, the reader will himself find proofs of the occult and mystic layers of consciousness and progressively have a clear perception of the nature of the inner self. Until personally realized, knowledge remains a mere theoretical statement. Once one has the concrete experience, no arguments to the contrary are able to shake his rock like living faith. Your inner self soul is the master of your mind. Consider yourself, that is, your real self, as the master of your body and mind. You, that is the soul, are the king, and the mind and body are your subjects. So far, your mind and body have enslaved you. They were dictating their terms to you. Now shatter this influence of the mind body duo with one mighty blow. Let them not torment you anymore. Free yourself from their slavery. Now you have become the real ruler of your kingdom. You are the king. Command with authority. Ask yourself, ask your subjects, that is your temperament, thoughts, determinations, intellect, desires, even the functions of the body to work under your directions. Direct them to put their signature on this new agreement of submission, stating that henceforth they will obey your orders like faithful employees of a king and will never show the least carelessness in maintaining the best and most beautiful form of managerial order for your life. There is a general belief that mind is the cause of all downfalls in morality, that the mind puts a person in situations in which regressive traits grow like weeds, and these traits keep him dragging from one adversity to another, thus making him perpetually unhappy. With the help of the foregoing contemplative exercises, the seeker would become free of such troubles, since he would have developed the faculties and competence which equip him with the confidence and capacity to steadfastly and calmly meet all challenges of life. Ahem, soul as the manager of body and mind. The site of a big factory in which hundreds of machines with numerous moving parts are operating with engines consuming thousands of horsepower of electricity may overwhelm a new person, but its superintending engineer, who is thoroughly familiar with its workings, feel perfectly at ease. He makes each section of the plant work as desired, like an experienced mahout controlling his trained elephant, or a snake charmer directing its captive poisonous snake to sway to his tune. The huge complex of machines would rather invoke in its manager a feeling of pride rather than fear. With confidence, he will watch the production of the day. One who has properly understood the nature, interrelationship, and workings of Ahem and its traits is comparable to such an efficient controlling engineer of a factory. Prolonged practice equips the seeker with extraordinary talents, not only his conscious mind but also the secret subconscious mind, the pravirta manas too, becomes responsive to his will, and while the conscious mind is engaged in other activities during waking hours. Even when the person is asleep, the subconscious keeps on working quietly for completion of its assignments. When the awakened subconscious mind puts forward its output, it takes the new seeker by surprise, who considers it as a result of some invisible help or a paranormal phenomenon. The adept yogi, on the other hand, knows that such a phenomenon is the manifestation of one's own unknown latent potentialities. In human psyche lie breed marvelous talents and capabilities waiting to be awakened and tapped. Self-confidence and patience are the two key factors for success in any high aim. The task is difficult, but it is superbly rewarding, even if it takes years of contemplating practice. The endeavor should not be given up. Do not remain merely intellectually satisfied with the straight tract. Study, contemplate, have faith and confidence, and sincerely and steadily move forward on the path towards self realization. Affirmations of this lesson. First, I am the master. Mind is an instrument for expression of my powers. Second, I am not the mind. I am not dependent on the authority of the mind. Third, I am capable of separating the self from intellect, temperament, desires, and all other faculties and activities of mind. Leaving all these aside, what is left is I am. I am indestructible, eternal, immortal, ever pure, immutable, and undifferentiated. I am, not I am this or I am that. So, this is all the description and explanation of the mind. Mind is divided in conscious mind, subconscious mind, unconscious mind, and superconscious mind. Conscious mind, what we are when we are awakened, we are talking, discussing, that is the conscious mind. And that is the secret mind, subconscious mind, which is responsible for all the automatic actions going on in the human body. So, and unconscious mind, further very secret, and that spiritual mind, that is the superconscious mind, that is the state of Samadhi we call in the spiritual parlance. So thank you my dear friends for watching and listening this wonderful video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Namaskar my dear friends. I will give one more video on this topic, that is who am I? That is the self-inquiry method of self-realization and finally getting liberation. So thanks a lot. Namaskar.